Today's presentation is on plagiarism and how to avoid it. According to the syllabus, plagiarism is the theft of someone else's intellectual property and subsequent attempt to purport it to be your own. In a class like Comp 1, though, in which you're learning to use sources correctly, you'll make mistakes and these will be treated accordingly. However, if your instructor finds that you have intentionally plagiarized, you will receive a failing grade for that assignment at least, or a failing grade for the course at most, depending on the severity of the plagiarism. It seems unfair to hold you accountable for plagiarism, especially with such severe penalties, and not show you an example of what plagiarism looks like. I have a confession to make. I'm a huge Batman fan, so I'm going to use Batman for my example. Now, I'm not trying to teach you about Batman, but about the writing process. So as we go, see how you can use this writing process for your own paper topics. So let's say I'm going to do a little bit of research about my topic, Batman. The first thing I come across is a fabulous article on Wikipedia. And I think to myself, this is some really great stuff. It would go great in my paper. So I cut and paste it directly from my source, making sure to fix those visual cues that might let my instructor know that I had cut and pasted directly from my source. And after I'm finished, no one can tell what I did. Unless my teacher highlights the part of my text that doesn't quite sound like my voice, puts it into Google, runs a search, and finds out that I have copied it directly from my source. Now, the person who does that is a person who has plagiarized intentionally. That means they meant to do it. But what about the person who wants to use information from the source and not plagiarize, meaning that they cite it properly? The part of the text underlined in red does not belong to the author of this paper, but belongs to another source, Wikipedia. One of the things that MLA format does is it helps our audience be able to see where information from our source begins and where it ends. As long as our audience can tell which words and information belong to us and which belong to our sources, we have avoided plagiarism. When citing an internet source, put the name of the author or the website at the beginning of the sentence. That's great, but we use several sentences of information. How is our audience supposed to know where our source material ends and where our voice begins again? To answer this question, we turn to Purdue OWL Online. Purdue has an MLA formatting and style guide on their website. Under the MLA format style guide, they give us the rules for citing non-print or sources from the internet. Notice the phrase, many sources on the internet should not be used for scholarly work. Wikipedia is one such website that should not be used for scholarly work. To be honest and fair, the vast majority of information that you find on Wikipedia is correct, but because anyone can edit it, you sometimes have destructive people who report things on Wikipedia that are not true, and you don't want to be caught putting any of this information into your paper. To do so would ruin your credibility as a writer. An end citation or parenthetical expression is used at the end of the information that we have gotten from a source in our paper. Purdue OWL Online tells us that because websites do not have page numbers, we don't have to put end citations at the end of the information. So the next question is, how is our audience going to be able to distinguish when our source material ends and our material begins? Here, I use language that indicates to my audience that they are now getting my ideas and my words and not another source's. Beginning and end citations are not all that is missing, however. I need to use quotation marks to indicate that the words also belong to my source. But now I have a different problem. The red box on your screen indicates that more than half of my introduction belongs to somebody else and not me. Instructors call this padding the paper when you use more information from your source than you write yourself. This is a problem easily fixed. Instead of quoting my source directly, I'll simply put it into my own words and write a summary. When I write a summary, I put it into my own words, so there's no need for quotation marks. Do I still need to put the name of the author or website at the beginning of it? Yes, I do, because while the words belong to me, the ideas still belong to the original source. Now you might be thinking, oh, well, I can just copy out of a book because they're not on the internet for my teacher to be able to catch me. That may not be the case because using Google Scholar or Google Books, I can go online and find entire books available online. The books you're seeing on your screen are books I have on my shelf right now. And they're available in their entirety online. Be sure to view the policies regarding plagiarism very carefully. You can find it on our syllabus, which is on our course website under the Content Home tab. Students plagiarize most when they wait to the last minute and they're desperate. Students may feel that plagiarism is the only way to complete an assignment on time. But it's not worth it because plagiarism leads to a failing grade. So remember that starting early and adherence to MLA guidelines will give you a chance at a better grade. To get to the grade that you want, avoiding plagiarism is your first step.